Welcome, everyone, to just a fun little podcast. Talk about some gaming videos here. I am Jamie. I'm sitting across the table from Chris here, a.k.a. Philly. So if you know him, that's what he goes by. But we're just going to chat a little bit, see how it goes, talk about some gaming stuff. Nothing big. It's just kind of a test little podcast to see where I can go with this and all that. Before I dive into it, though, as I always say, if you enjoy this and you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button. Let me know that you like it. If you don't, let me know what I can change. Also, hit that follow button to know when I post up everything. Do the follow on the podcast channel here, and then also my regular Nerdology5280 page. Hit that button, too, so you can see all my other videos, gameplay, and I also have box openings and vlogs and reviews and all kinds of shit that I do there. So please jump in there and follow that too. And if you're on iTunes, hit that follow there. Also, everything is accessible through the website. I have it. You can watch. I'm pulling in the videos now to it, and you can also hear the podcast directly from there. So without further ado, let's talk about some gaming stuff. It's just going to be kind of a random thing. I know you right now you're have definitely been big into Rainbow Six lately.
Obsessively, it's obnoxious. I mean, I've had the game for probably since mid-December. I think I'm almost a 90 rank now, about 87, so I've been playing way too much. I've been taking a little time off since I got Twilight Princess for the Wii U, but definitely been heavily into Rainbow Six. Again, for me, I'm very much into the multiplayer online gaming, so that's an avenue I like to explore, and when there's a game that I enjoy there, I'm going to spend a lot of time on it. So
yeah. I mean, I know I mentioned that I was interested in it, and it's definitely been on there. It's just a matter of finding time to get the game and play it. The only problem that sucks is whenever you do these new games and then you got these older games, going back to them, it's like, well, then you miss out on the newer games and all that shit. But I know you rave about it. I know a couple of other friends have definitely played it and enjoyed it too. So maybe I need to just say fuck it and go buy it.
I think you do. You definitely need to. I mean, it's one of the things I enjoy the most about this game is that, I mean, for me, I was a big Call of Duty fan. I was very much in the franchise, and I kind of fell off of it. I don't like the direction that they moved into, so brings a little more traditional perspective to a first-person shooter, I feel like, where you're not dealing with jetpacks and people jumping all over the map. And I'm very much more into the tactical feel of things, and this definitely brings that aspect of it. So it reminds me a lot of Counter-Strike back in the day when that was out, just upgraded, on a whole nother level. So you have different characters that bring different things to the table, and so if you're on the offense and you're on the attack, there's certain things that you can do that the other team, the players or characters on the defense can kind of counteract each one of those. So there's so many different. Each team only gets 5 players, so you have to choose kind of wisely and try to figure out, okay, is this person going to pick this character? How can I counteract what their strategy is going to be in that sense? And I like it because you also go from these different scenarios of hostage situations to defusing a bomb or having to defend the bomb and prevent it from being defused. And the maps go from being small to being large, so your strategy changes with every scenario. And I think it's amazing. I think they did a great job with this game. It was great.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely heard and I've watched gameplay videos and seeing all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff with it. I guess my only thing that I was worried about is when you're sitting there and you know how it chooses your online partners if you're not playing with friends and stuff like that. If you're in a game like that and you have those shitty ass people that not necessarily not know what they are doing, it's the fact that they really don't give a fuck and they're just, they don't care. So
you definitely have to deal with both aspects of that, really, is the people who don't care, the people who don't know what they're doing, and then actually the third aspect where you got those shitheads that just come in because it's one of those games where they make it as realistic as possible. So friendly fire is always on. You can it doesn't get turned off, so you can always kill your own teammates. So if they accidentally jump into your crosshairs, they're dying. And so there are those assholes that jump on, and before the match even starts, or as soon as the match starts, you go through I think it's about a 30-second preparation phase where the offensive team sends in little drones with cameras on it, and they have to find your location within the building or area that you're in.
Yeah.
And as a defensive team, you have to set up like reinforced walls, et cetera, and basically set up your defensive camp around the objective. There are those assholes that'll jump in right away and just slaughter your entire team and then just leave. And then like that, you've already lost a round, and it pisses you off. As far as dealing with the people that don't know what they're doing and yada yada, or the people that don't even talk, because it does get difficult when you play with a bunch of people that don't talk and communicate. Unless you're dealing with some extremely good gamers that can take over an entire match by themselves. At the end of the day, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, it's a game where you have to talk to each other, you have to strategize, and it's not like Call of Duty where you can just run and gun. You got to take your time going into each objective and really strategize what you're doing and be careful about it. When you're dealing with people that don't know what they're doing or people that aren't talking, it can get frustrating, but the upside to it is that the community of people on here, I feel like that I've played with on live, has been comparable to when I played with Gears, and not like any other game that I've played thus far. Well, most people get that. So you kind of get to a point where you start playing with people, and the people that do talk, they will add you as a friend on Xbox Live, or I haven't played on the PlayStation Network, but I can't imagine it would be any different. They're just excited that there's people that are talking. And a lot of people that I talk to, they're like, they don't care if you're bad at the game or not. They just want people that they can talk to and strategize with and make a plan. And eventually, you know, they'll get used to playing with you throughout time over and over again, and then get used to your gaming style, and they'll give you advice on strategies and how to help you get through the game and how to play better. And one of the other upsides to it, it's one of those games where whether you're on the offense or defense, there's different devices that allow you as a spectator after you die to tell your teammates where the other enemies might be. Granted, there's variables involved, like you can shoot out some of the cameras, and if your team does a good job of shooting out all the cameras, then the other team can't see where you're at. You can't tell them. But it's one of those things that really requires a lot of communication to be successful at. And most people, I won't say all, because it's the gaming community. There are those dickheads out there, but for the most part, the majority of the people on there are like, if you're talking, you're communicating, even if you're terrible at the game, they're willing to add you as a friend online and then get back on and play with you again, help you out with the game and strategize with you as a team member. And if you're like the last person left on your team and you still have 3 or 4 people to go up against, they're sitting there pointing out right away, like, okay, he's going to be over here in this section of the building, or he's to your left right now. Go over there, go get him, and do this or do that. You know what I mean? It's encouraging in that sense. But like I said, I mean, there are always your shitheads that are online. It's a given. It's going to happen with any game. But I feel like it's the other aspect of this game that has been encouraging to me in playing online is that for the most part, there's a good community of people on there playing it. So it makes it that much more enjoyable playing online.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know if you'd want me to play with you because friendly fire, like you were saying, I might be that dumbass person that'll start firing and not mean to shoot people.
I mean, the majority of the time too. I mean, people will be looking at your rank and they'll understand.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get a guy on there that's like a 60 rank and he does some stupid shit like that, you're gonna get kicked.
It's
you know
like
what
really,
I mean?
Yeah.
If you're the guy that kills a hostage and you're ranked at 60, they're gonna be like, okay, this guy needs to go.
So they don't. So it necessarily, you could have people that are way lower rank than you playing with you.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They try to balance the teams out though, in a sense that if you've got like 360 ranks on your team or 360 or higher, and then 2 guys that are like below 20 or 5 or something like that, then they'll try to balance it out as much as they can with the other team. So, and again, it also depends on whether or not you, just like any other game, whether you get partied up with other people that are friends and they've got an entire squad of people that are already there. I mean, you're kind of screwed in that sense, but
I mean, it sounds interesting because the whole strategy side, that's what I'm all about. I'm not a run and gun type person, except for a few games. Like I've done it with like Wolfenstein and Doom and stuff like that, where it's not quite Call of Duty where it's all, as my computer's making funny noises, where there is a lot of differences with Call of Duty where you definitely, to be one of the top players, you have to know the shit you're doing and find the different however it is, because I've never really played Call of Duty online or anything like that. But like the Doom and Wolfenstein, I can just run and gun. You know,
Right.
it doesn't matter, single player, multiplayer, whatever. But mostly, I like the strategy side
Well, I can
where
tell
I
you
have to think about what's going on.
from playing Call of Duty, like one of my favorite things to do is running around with the tack knife. So you got a guy
Uh-huh.
that's running around with a pistol and a very small knife. So
Yeah.
holding a pistol right here and a knife right here, and it's just a quick jab with the knife.
Uh-huh.
And I've run around maps easily with that and gotten 28 kills in
Yeah.
a match. Where death match, you're talking about 75 kills for your entire team, and I'm getting close to 50% of the kills on my own just running around with a knife.
Uh-huh.
While other people are running around with ARs and SMGs, you know what I'm saying?
And they're just not doing shit.
Logically, real life, it doesn't make sense. It's fun. It's fun to do, but it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. So, I mean, in this game, you're not going to get away with that. But at the same time, you don't have nearly as many people in the lobby. There's 5 people per team. So you got 10 people. Generally, you play, unless you're playing ranked, if you're playing casual, you're going to play best of 3. So whoever wins the first 3 rounds wins.
Okay.
So I mean, depending on how that pans out, you could play 3 rounds, you could play 5 rounds, whatever. That's how a match lasts. But the dynamic that I like about it is every character has their own special thing about them, and they bring something different to the table. But then again, like I said, on the other side of the team, there's something that can counteract that. So if you don't pick the right characters on your defensive team to counteract what the offensive team is doing, it can really screw you. So, for example, they have a character called Thermite, and he's the only one that has a breach charge that can go through metal reinforced walls.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if the other team is reinforcing everything with metal, he can get through it, and he can help his team get through it. And if he gets killed right away or nobody on the offensive team picks that guy, you might be kind of screwed and have a hard time getting a tactical advantage, and you can't get through those walls. But then at the same time, there's a character like Mute and a character like Bandit that can prevent Thermite from being able to get through those. So, but then on the offensive side, there's Thatcher, who has EMP grenades that can take out all their devices that can prevent him from getting through. So the other side you got to think of is talking with your team and being able to match up your characters. So
Yeah. Make
on
sure
the
what works
offensive
best
side,
together.
if I have a Thermite, I should have a Thatcher.
Yeah.
So that I can get through those scenarios together, right? And then on the defensive side, you have a character called Doc, so he's able to heal himself. So you get to points where you don't, unless it's a headshot, sometimes you get just downed, and a teammate can come pick you up and revive you. Doc can pick you up. Any team member can come pick you up, but Doc has like kind of a little gun thing. He can shoot something to heal you with from a distance,
Okay.
and he can heal himself. No other characters can heal themselves. So there's also a character called Rook who provides body armor. So if you have Rook on your team and provides body armor, you're almost, unless it's a headshot, every single time guaranteed that you're going to get downed and you're not going to die right away, unless it's a headshot.
Yeah.
So if you have Rook and you have Doc on your team, that's an advantage, because if you have that body armor, you're going to get downed, and then Doc can pick anybody who gets downed up right away.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's planning out that strategy. So,
Yeah, it's a very, I can see it's a very strategy heavy game. I mean, definitely. I mean, it's and as I said, it's been on my radar, but then of course other games come out. The
Right.
Division.
And it also comes
that
down to
came
your,
out,
your flavor, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like for me, when it comes to games these days, most of the time, I'm really big into playing online and doing the multiplayer thing.
That's big for everyone. I mean, that's definitely
And
one of
it's,
the bigger.
I've kind of branched
out
away
there.
from most campaigns, and
Yeah.
it's because I mean, honestly, I feel like these days, the regular games themselves aren't built to be as challenging as older games were. I mean, you get the save points, you can restart from wherever. It wasn't like old school Mario where you got to start the entire game all over again. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So it
It's
becomes-
definitely the difficulties changed
Right.
a lot.
So I mean, while it's still enjoyable, it's become a lot easier
Yeah.
to beat and get through. And for me, I get a little more disengaged.
Uh-huh.
So I prefer the strategy of playing against other
Uh-huh.
people rather than bots or the
It's-
computer version of the game. And it's also because for me, it's like a mental chess game
Uh-huh.
with somebody. I got to be smarter than them when I'm playing online.
Well, the way they work, I mean, the way I see it is, you've got your multiplayer online stuff, which is going to be huge with everyone, that's into that. But the difficulty has. Oh, that was that. I was wondering. I was like, what the hell's that noise?
It's my
That's the vape. But no, the games that were hard before now are more built for story stuff. And it's a very story-heavy, story-driven thing. You didn't have the stories like you do now. In the past there was stories, but now it's very deep, and you dive in, you learn the characters, you learn their lives, you feel like you're that person, and it pulls you in, and that's why it's switched.
And
so
maybe
it's
I don't
not
branch
as
off
hard.
enough from the multiplayer world, but I feel like that's few and far in between. So I mean, whereas back in the day, especially when you're dealing with like 8-bit and 16-bit systems, they really had to pull you into a story to keep you engaged in the game for the most part. So I mean, I feel like you don't see stories anymore like what the old Final Fantasy games used to be and what the old Zelda games used to be, and I don't feel like I get drawn in anymore. So I mean, like even now I'm playing the new Twilight Princess, or well, not really new, but it's new to me because I didn't have a Wii, but I have a Wii U now, so I got the Twilight Princess on it. And while I'm enjoying the game, I'm loving the hell out of it, and definitely off the nostalgia factor of Zelda. I'm not as drawn in as I was with the old school Zeldas or even Ocarina of Time. But it's fun.
Yeah, I won't lie, that was one of my least favorite Zeldas of all time. I was kind of disappointed that they haven't remade other previous Zeldas before that one, but that's a whole different story.
Right.
No, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I wasn't big into the game because it didn't pull me in like I wanted, but one of the biggest stories last year was The Witcher 3. That was a huge story. Fallout had a very big story with it. Because it's a very story-heavy driven thing. You look at the Assassin's Creed games. It's a story that's went on from one to another to another. Now they're finally, of course, taking a break next year or this year because they realize that they've oversaturated the market with Assassin's Creed. Thank God, because I love Assassin's Creed, but it's too much.
I do too. I think we've touched base on this before. I love Assassin's Creed 2. For me personally, I didn't get into it until Black Flag. I tried playing Assassin's Creed 2, and at the time, it just wasn't moving fast enough for me personally. So, I mean, the same developers build. I actually don't even remember the name of the game. It was made by the same creators as Assassin's Creed, but it was the guy who was in prison, and then he was kind of like a biological experiment.
I'm trying to think because it's Ubisoft.
The first game was cool. I never played the second one, but you could mutate and had different things going on. It was kind of like a world with zombies and shit like that. Anyhow, I thought that was a fun game, and it was based off the same platform as Assassin's Creed was. Moved a lot faster than Assassin's Creed did, and up until recently, I've always kind of struggled with the stealthy games where you had to use some stealth. And then when Splinter Cell started going, I started getting more into the stealth games and started enjoying it more. I mean, I was the type where, like, when I first started playing Splinter Cell with one of my buddies, he would get frustrated as fuck with me because I would just run out in the middle of everything and run and gun it. Right, and so, I mean, that kind of tempered me a little bit in that world, so I adjusted to Assassin's Creed. But Black Flag was by far, I feel like, the best Assassin's Creed game made.
Black Flag was amazing. Is in my top 3 easily. I personally, I mean, you said that Assassin's Creed 2 wasn't moving fast enough or with it. I loved Assassin's Creed 2. I thought the mechanics and
part of the problem with it for me was that when I played it, I didn't own it.
Yeah.
So I was doing the
just trying to get through it, beat it.
Well, I didn't even have it that long, so I did the what's the game rental thing where you
Gamefly.
Gamefly.
Yeah.
I had it on Gamefly.
Yeah, so it was, I loved the whole thing overall, and that's like the most recent one, Syndicate, kind of reminded me of the back in the day with that one. I mean, because I have bought every single Assassin's Creed minus the few offshoots like, what is it, Nintendo, the DS I think had one or something like that. I think that's actually the only one I haven't played, but I bought them all.
Chronicles,
yeah,
the
I haven't done that. Yeah, I those haven't interested me, but I bought them all like day one, pre-order, all that stuff because I've loved it so much. But 2 was one of those that just it brought a whole different mechanic. It built with what they started out with 1 and took it to a different level of able to make this this massive open world stealth game that just really did pull me in, and that's kind of it pulled me in not only the assassin side part of it, the old historical side, but also the side with Desmond and stuff like that you were dealing with for the current age and pulling that in.
Right.
And they kind of left that as it went on. But then Black Flag was something else. I mean,
Right.
the ship battle was.
Well, that was great.
Yeah, it was
And
awesome.
I mean, for me, like for financial
Yeah.
reasons, I mean, usually when new video game systems come out and games come out, it takes me a while to catch up.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't get an Xbox One till it was a couple years after it had been released, and
Yeah.
they started selling it without the Connect for $350.
Yeah.
So I actually got the Black Friday deal on it when it came with Black Flag, and what was the other one right after Black Flag that came out?
Oh, Unity.
Unity. Yes,
Yeah.
it came with those two with the system. So I mean, at first
Yeah.
I wasn't excited about playing it, and
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna check it out. It came free with my Xbox, so I'm gonna play it. And I got sucked into Black Flag like crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
it was ridiculous the amount of time I was putting into playing this game, and I was like, I haven't put this much amount of time in a video game since I was a little kid. It was like as soon as my kids were in bed, I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning every night playing this damn game.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm through this. I beat it. I got through this. I loved it. I'm definitely checking out Unity. I liked Unity. But I felt like in between Black Flag, and I can't speak on the older ones, but between Black Flag and Unity up to Syndicate, and I enjoyed Syndicate because it felt a lot smoother as far as, how the character moved, crawling up the walls and everything like that. But I felt like it was way too easy to beat.
It
And
wasn't easy.
The thing I
game, yeah.
appreciated about Black Flag was I felt like it required a lot more strategy and a lot more work to get through and mental process. And I felt like Syndicate was just too easy. And even though Unity had all of the bugs in it and everything, I enjoyed that
Yeah.
more than Syndicate just because of the fact that it wasn't as easy.
Yeah.
And I always felt like at some point in time throughout those games, whether it was like at the end of the game or somewhere in the middle of the game, it kind of took this weird turn where you had almost this God of War feel to it.
Yeah.
Where there's kind of this like puzzle that you kind of had to get through, and it wasn't just about the stealth and fighting people and stuff, but it
Yeah.
required the thought process and thinking to get through it.
Mhm.
And almost even like Zelda, where you got to kind of
Yeah.
unlock this area to get to this area.
And do that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, there was, I don't know if you heard, there was a game that came out for Assassin's Creed called Rogue. And it came out the same time Unity dropped, except it was only exclusive to the PS3 and 360.
I did not know about that
So
one.
it was based off of going forward with the Black Flag side of it. So it was a lot more ship battle based, a lot more, but it was really good. I mean, I got it for my PS3. I got it after, or no, I got it the same time because they dropped the same day as Unity. And go figure, I got a PS4 at the time, and I got this brand new system. It's gorgeous. I'm going to play the hell out of that, you know. It's like, I'm not going to go back to my PS3 right now. So I haven't beat it yet because of the fact that it was on the older system and just really didn't do it. But every time I've played it, though, I've really enjoyed it because it was more Black Flag related.
Right.
It wasn't, it's a probably 75% ship based, I think.
Okay.
But you're going, it ties into the story really well, but you're a lot farther north and everything like that. You're not down in the Caribbean and stuff like
Okay.
that with Black Flag. So you have to go through ice and all. There's a lot of different factors with cold weather and all that you have to take an advantage.
I mean, I'm not even
You
gonna
know,
lie.
it's
I mean,
really
even
cool.
after all this time and the fact
Yeah.
that they haven't reduced the price on it, I've thought about buying the expansion pack for Black Flag still and spending the $20 to play that. I think it's an extra 4 hours of storyline
Yeah, something
for
like that.
it. And
Usually you can find those like Black Friday is a really good time
quite
for stuff
honestly,
when
if
they
I
drop
wasn't
those.
so
or-
caught up in Rainbow Six right now,
Yeah.
Rainbow Six Siege, I probably
Yeah.
would have picked that up by now.
But I mean, as we were talking earlier, I know with multiplayer and all that stuff. I mean, I'm not the biggest multiplayer person. I don't do a lot of multiplayer. I'm more single player and all that. But what piqued my interest, of course, was The Division. The only issue that I have like with that game is they compare it a lot to Bungie's game that they came out with. That I'm drawing a complete blank. Their big multiplayer game that they came out with.
I'm probably not going to be able to help you on this one.
Destiny. Destiny.
I would not
Yeah.
compare that to Destiny.
Well, that's the way they're comparing it though is it is Destiny except with more modern guns and people because it's an
I don't know
open
about
world.
that. I mean,
you go,
I feel like you're comparing apples to oranges there again. So, I mean, I feel like Destiny, when I played that, I didn't play a lot of it, but when I played it, it reminded me of the Halo universe.
yeah, which
Very much of that. And Tom Clancy's Division, you're not getting that.
well, they're not comparing it like the whole universe. They're comparing it the fact that it's an open world MMO shooter, and you go through and you have all these side missions, and you're grouping with people and all that stuff to do these side missions, and it's not all PvP wherever you go.
Well, yeah.
And it's
I mean,
not heavily
I guess
PvP based.
I get that reference.
in that sense.
But
Yeah.
the feel of the game itself is going to give you a completely different feel because,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with Destiny, it's a first-person shooter. Tom Clancy's Division, it's a third-person shooter.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, really, while it feels differently, if you're going to compare it to another online game from a third-person perspective, kind of Gears of Wars-ish, but not the same at
Yeah.
all. Because it has much more of an RPG perspective in the sense that you have to develop your character, you have to, earn points to get better weapons, you have a base that you got to build. So far I've played the beta, and, I mean, the whole thing is starting out by doing a couple side missions that
Learn
unlock
it
things for your base.
Yeah.
And that's how it starts out. And it is cool, though, because if your friends are online, I mean, it's an open world, they're right there. So, I mean, if I had to compare it to anything else that I have played before, in that sense where you could just jump in with another player that's online and they could help you out whether you're friends with them or not, I would say it's kind of similar to Fable 3 in that sense.
Okay.
But it's kind of like the shooter version of Fable 3. So it's like I have these side missions, I can just grab somebody and be like, hey, come join me, let's play. Yeah. But obviously you're going to get a much different feel for it because it's a shooter and not a sword game, but I don't feel like you could compare it to Destiny, really.
The reason.
So kind of what we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, I mean, the feel of the game itself kind of reminds me more of, I guess you can compare it as far as the open world, but as far as the gameplay itself and how the game feels while you're playing it is more comparable to Max Payne without being able to slow things down, or Red Dead Revolver without being able to slow things down. So I guess if you brought together those aspects and and Destiny, kind of combine the two, then you would get Tom Clancy's Division.
And what really piqued my interest? Well, for one thing, once the reviews and everything started coming out, and everyone was like, because this had been delayed left and right, big time.
Which is fine, though, because Siege has had a lot of success.
Yeah, I'm fine with delays, but everyone was like real hesitant because they're like, well, we don't know how it's going to do this and that. It just, the beta wasn't a good impression for a lot of people. And then all of a sudden these reviews and everything, people start talking about, not even just, I don't really pay attention to the reviews in general. Like, I don't care about the score. Because I'll never do anything like that. But it's more the people playing it saying, this is not what I expected. This is way better than what I thought it was going to be. Because I went in and thinking this is going to be okay game. You go around, you shoot people, you got your RPG elements, all that stuff. Cool, whatever. But everyone's like, no, this is really, it pulls you in the game. There's a lot of things to do. It's a lot of fun. The mechanics are great. The graphics are great. The story is, actually compelling to a lot of people and all that. And that's what's piqued my interest a lot with that. Plus the fact that you can do a whole mission, and in the middle of a mission, one of your partners can defect and turn around and kill you all. I mean, because that shit can happen. They can go against you on that type of thing. And I'm like, okay, so that instead of the fact where if you get pissed off and you just log out and leave everyone, if you get pissed off, you could just turn around and shoot everyone. And it throws in that whole thing, but you also have to be prepared because you're going against the rest of your team that, it's you against them.
Right.
So unless you can take them all out real quick, you're fucked.
I mean,
type thing.
That is a potential for it to occur. I played the beta, and I only played a few hours of it. It doesn't take not even a few hours. The beta itself, there's not a lot to it. It doesn't take much to get through. And
betas.
I played with one other friend, which was cool. So, I mean, like, for me, It's not something I'm going to rush and buy.
Uh-huh.
I'm not in a rush to get on the day it comes out, especially because I am so into Rainbow Six Siege right now.
Yeah.
And there's still more promising stuff to come from Rainbow Six Siege as far as the DLC. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what comes from that because so far the DLC from Rainbow Six Siege has been kind of 50-50. So like the new map is all right. Out of the 2 new characters, one of them is great. The other one's eh.
Uh-huh.
So, but as far as the Division goes, playing it, I wasn't impressed. And I very much got like a Max Payne feel because it got redundant. But the problem was that you get thrown in these situations where it is almost impossible to beat on your own.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't know if it's just because you're starting out, maybe it's easier when you're actually playing the game and you can develop your character and level them up or whatever. Well, there's a lot of options that are missing from the beta. And it shows you what the options are, and you try to upgrade your character to those options, but it says not available in the beta, right?
Yeah,
So,
which that's understandable.
Right. So you don't get those opportunities to see what that's about. But playing it, I mean, I felt like every single bad guy I was fighting was just a fucking bullet sponge. And even if I hit him with headshots, I had to enter or dump 2 magazines into one bad guy to kill him. But you're sitting in this room where there's like 30 fucking bad guys in there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, this is almost impossible to get through. And there were some levels where if I didn't have a friend that I was playing with, I wasn't going to get through that on my own unless I sat there and played for fucking hours and hours.
Yeah.
But at the same token, so it's like, my struggle is that it doesn't quite give you that Splinter Cell feel where you can do that stealthy strategy stuff.
Yeah.
If you sit in one place for too long or even kind of try to bounce to the next other area, everything happens too fast. There's too many guys coming at you, and they're bullet sponges, so it's very easy to get killed. And it's I'll give it this much. It is more of a challenge than most games you see today. But it was frustrating in that sense that like I almost feel like every single map I had to play or level I had to play, I had to do with somebody on my team. I wasn't going to get through it on my own.
And
there were a few that I did, but it became a struggle and it became frustrating.
And that's where the
comparison. At least give me one or the other where you're going to give me the time to get that strategy and the stealthy situation going like a Splinter Cell or something like that.
That's where the comparison to Destiny comes, because Destiny is the same way. It's not meant to be played by yourself. It's built for the teams. It's built for the other people. Of course, the one thing I can say is you're playing beta. The beta is always going to be.
I know
it's just a beta.
And I know that they made a big push with the beta for this game
out.
to like they asked for people for a shit ton of feedback, and they made the beta very open to everybody to be able to like say, hey, especially after the way the Rainbow Six Siege servers went and how terrible they were, they wanted to open this up and say, hey, like really give us a lot of feedback on it on this game and really criticize it so that we can fix everything that's an issue with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's definitely a very real possibility that the actual game itself, when it launches, is going to be 10 times better than the beta. It definitely has the potential to.
I've done a lot of betas throughout all my gaming because I get a lot of stuff, and I'll especially do a lot more now that I'm getting a PC and stuff like that. Just do beta stuff through that and kind of like the pre-release games and stuff. And that's the one thing I've learned is the beta gives you an idea, but until you play the real game, it's one of those things you never know what's going to happen.
And the point I'm making, though, is just that based off the beta, I'm not sold.
Someone's drunk texting me. Yeah. So. No, you mentioned when you were talking comparing stuff, and I kind of just wanted to bring it up briefly. You mentioned Fable 3. Did you hear the news this week with Fable? And you know the developer of it, Lionhead Studio.
Yeah.
They announced this week that they were making it was a free-to-play Fable game. Fable Legends, I think it was called, on the Xbox One, and it was in beta. Go figure.
I played the beta for that too.
Yeah. And officially this week, the game's been canceled.
It should be.
And Lionhead is going away. They're shutting the studio, unfortunately. I love Fable. I enjoyed the first 3 games. The third one wasn't quite what it could have been.
Nope. The
but I
second one wasn't
enjoyed.
quite what it could have been.
I enjoyed a lot of it. I mean, the first was great. The second I really did enjoy because it brought in the other aspect of people being able to play with you and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
the third one just kind of lost it. I didn't play the Connect only one that they did,
I
whichever
didn't,
that
and
was.
that was garbage. It was,
Yeah, I
it
heard
was
a
horrible.
lot of shit.
It was horrible.
But I hate to see, especially something like this that had a lot of potential for a style of game like that was a lot of fun. It sucks to see something where I was hoping that Microsoft would jump on that free-to-play thing because they don't have the free-to-play side of it as much. They do have few. There's a game called Neverwinter Nights. It's a Dungeons and Dragons based MMO that's free on there, but Sony kind of has them beat on a lot of that stuff. And I was excited to see a first-party game come free-to-play, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, they just, I don't know what it is. It just didn't hit the marks that it needed in beta or what. I don't know, but...
Well, I tell you, I played the beta, and I played it once, and that was enough for me. And I was fucking done.
Yeah.
It was garbage. It was horrible. And the one thing that they messed up the most with that beta was that... So the one thing that made Fable great was that it kind of gave you the freedom to do what you wanted to do with your character, right? So you can go good, you can go evil.
Mm-hmm.
And your character developed based off of that. So if you remember on the first one, if you decided to go the evil route, your character started looking despicable to where you would walk into town and just the very sight of you, people didn't want to see you. You had flies swarming around you. Your nails were 9 inches long, and you looked terrifying to people. And if you were good, people were drawn to you. They would help you out.
Yeah.
And it changed the dynamic and how the whole gameplay was. So if you went that evil route, you would go into town. You had people harassing you. You couldn't buy anything in the stores. You had to steal it. If you were good, they'd give you whatever you wanted, right?
Yeah.
And this newest Fable, they went down the route of making different characters. So you had to choose between different characters. I was like, at this point, just make a different game and call it something else. Don't call it Fable anymore, because it's not following the path of Fable.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like every single game after that kind of started taking away from it a little bit. And definitely after the first one, the second one, and then down to the third, it got diluted, and they started to take away from the storyline itself. So there was a storyline in the first one that kind of changed with the path you were going down as your character. And then the second one, it got a little more diluted, and by the time the third one came around, it was all just based on like customizing your own character, how you wanted it to look, where everything on the first one was based off of the reactions of what your actions were throughout the game, which is what made it amazing, which is what made it great. So I don't know, that's one of the things I loved about it the most. And Fable 1 was like something I felt like I need to go back and play it at least one more time, because I need to go through and play it as a good character, and then go back and play it as the guy who's robbing everybody and killing everybody in every town, and see what happens.
Yeah, the one thing that got me with it is Peter Molyneux, the one before he left the studio. He promised a lot of stuff and kept promising and promising and promising, and then never delivered. So there was all these high hopes with all the games. Everything was like, oh, this is going to do this and this and this and that and this. And when the game came out, it's like, okay, it's fun, but where's this? Or where's this? Or where's this? Oh, it's coming. Why? Why is it not? They said funny. Why is it not there now? That's the question.
Right.
Why are you releasing a game that's not built and finished? And it's one of those things, like, I think that's what killed it too. And then when he finally left, and they just didn't have anyone to take control for that studio to do what they needed to do, and it just...
Right, because, I mean, to your point, one of the things that Fable 3 promised was that your actions was going to shape your environment and how things change in the future as the storyline goes on. And while it happened on a small scale, just based off of the trailers and everything leading up to the game, you were expecting a lot more to occur. There wasn't as much flexibility as there was in Fable 1 between, choosing the good actions versus the bad actions and the consequences of it. And it was more exciting to see that not only was my character going to change, but the environment was going to change. Mm-hmm. But it was just so it was a little too structured, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like you could predict what was going to happen based off of this action, and
yeah,
you wanted to be surprised, and that surprise wasn't there anymore. So, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's unfortunate that they delivered
it's
what they could.
Unfortunate because the concept alone has
awesome,
unlimited potential to it. And it's something that really any other gaming studio could pick up just the concept alone and make something amazing off of it. You know what I mean? But if they took the time to do it right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so hopefully I guess coming from the side from the way I look at everything is hopefully the people that have been working on all this stuff can find other jobs, because I guess Microsoft said they'll try and find jobs for them throughout the company with other studios and stuff is what they'll try. Of course, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and that's the game industry for you. It's so unstable.
Industry, though, there's politics and bullshit to deal with, and limitations that
exactly
people are like, this is my vision. I don't necessarily care about your vision, so we're going to do mine, and then it fails, and shit happens.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess the industry, I see the way it's going, a lot of the stuff is, I mean, multiplayer's big and stuff like that, but first-party games are kind of will be there, but they're not there like predominantly like they used to be. Indie scene is definitely building up and taking off a lot more like anything we've seen before. I mean, indie games are huge.
I feel like the reason why the multiplayer scene is as successful as it is, and the reason why it maintains the way it does, is because, again, at the end of the day, while this younger generation is coming up on video games and they're into it as well, at the end of the day, it's like comic books too. Like we were the generation that grew up on it. So what was the thing for us to do back in the day, right? It was like, I'm going to come over to your house. We're going to play some Nintendo.
Yeah.
We're going to hang out for 6 hours and play some Nintendo. We're all grown up now. We have real life shit going on, real life responsibilities. You got a regular job. I got a regular job. I'm a single dad. I got kids.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's not realistic that I'm going to go over to my buddy's house at 32 years old to go play some video games.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen.
But you put us online, it's going to happen.
You
know what I'm saying?
That's the nice part about
right. And again, so if we're going to backtrack to like Assassin's Creed, one of the things I liked about Unity was the co-op feature, and that's what I felt like was missing from Syndicate. So it was like it was something I could get online and play with my friends and enjoy. We can go through the missions together, and even if I'd run through those missions by myself, it was fun to go through it with a friend. Yeah. And to plan and strategize and do all that stuff too. So, I mean, it brought some replay value to the game for me. And the fact that it was missing from Syndicate kind of pissed me off.
See, I kind of felt a little bit different on that because the co-op was fun, but it's such a heavy story-driven thing. And a story, you can adjust the story throughout the game and things can change, but the story with the character is meant to go the certain direction.
It is. And I'm not going to argue with that at all.
Cool, but Syndicate, I can understand, like, you had the two people, Fry and Evie, the two main characters, and there was a lot of potential to have both of them there, but I don't feel that co-op would have worked with that in that sense, because not all missions would have worked the same way that it needed to be.
Right.
Now, having an online component to it like they used to have, like they even had the multiplayer aspect on Assassin's Creed, quite a few of the older games, where it wasn't your typical Call of Duty run and gun type thing. It was, you had to spot the other assassins there and then go and try and kill them before they see you and kill you. I mean, you could be going for someone, next thing you know, someone's stabbing you in the back.
Right.
And it was cool and it was a good concept, but it was one of those things that I felt that if you're going to do multiplayer, leave it to the multiplayer, and it just didn't feel like it.
Well, but that's why like the co-op thing I felt worked great, because I didn't play the multiplayer with the early versions of Assassin's Creed, but the Black Flag multiplayer was terrible. It was horrendous. Mm-hmm. But the campaign was amazing. Yeah. But the thing I liked about Unity was that the co-op missions weren't really involved in the storyline. They were just kind of side missions you could do with your buddy. Yeah. So it was like I could play co-op. So that's what I'm talking about as far as replay value. So it made me want to play that stuff again so that I could do it with my buddy. but it wasn't tied into the story, and it didn't rely on me having a co-op player to get through the story to complete the game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I felt like I would have played Syndicate a little more if that option was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like you mentioned, the potential was there between the two different characters. So I'm like,
Yeah.
why do you have two different characters in the storyline, but you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to offer up a co-op situation in this?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me.
And I know one of the things that I heard, I mean, of course, unless you hear directly from the developers, you
Right.
never know, but it was they wanted to focus on the single player because after Unity had so many bugs and issues with it that caused like game-breaking bugs. There was people that lost their games and couldn't move farther, do anything like that. They're like, we need to focus on the single player before we add anything else into it. We need to get back to our roots, where it came from. You know, the first couple Assassin's Creed, there was no multiplayer whatsoever. I mean, I don't think it was up until, was it not even Brotherhood had it, I think, which was one of the spin-offs. Maybe, I think Assassin's Creed 3 might have been one of the first ones. I could be wrong. I don't remember for sure. But they were like, we need to focus on one thing before we start adding in more again.
Right.
And it made sense because, I mean, it was a very massive game.
Well, it
there
makes
was a
sense,
lot
but I
to
mean,
do.
maybe that comes along
Yeah.
with not having such a quick turnaround and releasing another game. And just taking
Yeah.
your time to get every aspect of it right before you release it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I feel like one of the things that makes a lot of franchises successful for at least 12 months and maybe even up to 18 months is the downloadable content that comes along with it and the replayability, mostly with multiplayer options.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... and that's why I'm glad that they're skipping this year, you know, so then they can add more stuff into it and see what else they can do with it, you know. I mean, we'll get it next... or skipping... yeah, it was last year. Is it? No, it is this year. Syndicate was last year, and then this year they're skipping. I mean, of course, we have the movie coming out this year for it, November, I think. Maybe it's December. Actually, it's the week after I think Star Wars comes out. So, R.I.P. Assassin's Creed. Yeah,
Right.
That's not going to happen. But it'll give them more time to develop and do a lot more stuff with it, and that's what I'm excited for. Is
Right.
Because like I said, I've played every single one. I've bought every single one. I got my Vita, and I bought the Vita because of Assassin's Creed, because it came with I can't even remember the name, and it was the first female assassin that they had. And it was an awesome game. They ported it over to the PS3 and Xbox 360, but it was an awesome game. It was a lot of fun because they put in a whole different element of you could change outfits in the middle of when you're running from them, and they wouldn't recognize you. So it was a little bit different. So you could go from an assassin looking like assassins to a dress to, you know, so many different outfits and stuff like that.
Basically blending in with the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of threw it in that little different element because it fit for the female perspective, you know, and the different outfits that they can wear and stuff like that. But it was also a lot about slavery and stuff because it was New Orleans. It was the same time period as Black Flag, actually, because it came out the same time as Black Flag.
Oh, really?
Released right at the same time. So it was, instead of being up in New York and all that, this was in New Orleans, and there was actually a little bit of a tie-in to it, too. You had a mission that went and tied into the whole story with Black Flag. So it was really cool. It was an awesome game. I mean, it was a great thing. I wish they would do more stuff like that.
Right. But, I mean, I think it's just one of those unfortunate things where gaming studios get a little overzealous and they realize they have a successful franchise, so they're going to quick release something just to keep people engaged and try to make a couple extra bucks off it. So we saw it very similar with Gears of War.
Mm-hmm.
So 1, 2, 3 came out. One was good, 2 was amazing, 3 was good, and then they came out with Judgment, and Judgment was just slapped together. It was garbage.
Mm-hmm.
The multiplayer was garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, the campaign wasn't extremely terrible, but it was something you could burn through in 2.5 hours. Granted, it was only $40, so I didn't pay the full price for it anyway.
Yeah.
So, can I expect too much? Maybe not. But the exciting thing is that they've been taking their time for Gears of War 4. They brought in a lot of the old developers on it. Microsoft bought the rights to it. So from what it sounds like, at least, they're taking the time to try to do it right. I'm a little confused about the storyline itself and where it's supposed to pick up from the last one or not. I know it's supposed to be in the future, and Marcus Phoenix's son, I think, is the new main character, right?
And they just announced that, didn't they?
Yeah, they
recently.
did.
Yeah, which that's interesting, and it's it makes you think like they're doing like a whole different, of course, other trilogy or whatever they're gonna do, and they're going to introduce some other type of big bad, kind of like what they're doing with Halo, and Halo did it with going into a different type of enemy that you're fighting.
Right.
You're not fighting just the Covenant anymore. You got a whole different new.
Well, I mean,
enemy,
after so many games, you got to
switch
kind
it
of
up.
reinvent the wheel a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Switch it up, bring something new in. But on the other hand, that worries me because Halo 4 was not that good.
Yeah,
I didn't enjoy it.
Never
at all.
been a big Halo fan, so I can't attest to that. But
the first 3 were great. Love the franchise. I even played the multiplayer and all that stuff. I mean, I got
what Gears of War was for me. I loved the campaigns, and then
Yeah.
on top of that, I loved the multiplayer too. So that was something I could go back and do either one with no problem.
And that's why I got an Xbox One, was because the Master Chief Collection. And I was like, cool,
All
I
right.
get all of it. Hey, what the hell? Let's do it. Let's buy that.
Yeah.
It gives me a good reason to buy it. And, of course, now I play it like a lot now. I mean, Tomb Raider, and I use it a lot. That's my 100% Netflix, Hulu streaming device because it's so much easier to use.
I mean, honestly,
and
that
all
was
that,
one of the
but-
things that pushed me to hurry up and get an Xbox One, was when I heard that the Gears of War franchise was going to come back and they were taking their time to do it right.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much the type of person, I don't branch out to a lot of different games. I tend to stick to the same franchises until I get bored.
Yeah.
So I stuck with Call of Duty for a while, as I mentioned, until I wasn't impressed with the direction that they went through and switched to Rainbow Six. But always been a fan of Gears of War. We're ready to see the direction they're taking it in now, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
For sure. And I hope
Yeah,
that they
it's-
stay true to the original multiplayer platform on it, because what they try to do with Gears of War Judgment just fucked the entire game up.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I never played Judgment until recently when I was able to download it. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to try it anyways. I really, I know I heard all the bad things. I'm going to try it. And I'm like, this is bad. This is
It's like,
what the hell
Judgment
is this shit?
again, one of those things you're going to burn through the campaign quick. And it's, for the cheap price that it came out at, it was, I guess it was worth playing the campaign. But what I was excited about, because again, for me, as a multiplayer gamer, Gears of War was one of the games I loved playing multiplayer on.
Uh-huh.
And again, it was kind of one of those games you had to communicate, you had to strategize.
Yeah.
Not to necessarily to the degree you have to with Rainbow Six, but I mean, it required some thought process, and it was kind of like a chess game and playing other people. So I enjoyed that very much, but they completely flipped the script on how the multiplayer was played on Judgment, and it ruined it.
Yeah.
It wasn't Gears of War anymore. And I get that they were trying to add like a 3-dimensional platform to it and make it a little more realistic, but it just did not work for the franchise at all.
For a $40 game, I mean, kind of I couldn't even see myself paying $40 for that game at all. I mean, but that's also coming
20.
from that's also coming from like recently, like the game I'm playing now. My next Let's Play video series coming out is called The Witness. It's only on PlayStation, but it's not multiplayer or anything. It's not even similar to Gears whatsoever, but it's a $40 price tag. It's an indie game. It's a little higher for an indie game because most indie games you're looking $15-$20 somewhere right in there. But it's a puzzle strategy style game, and it's got this art style in there and the sounds and everything that just, the game is unbelievable. And right there, that's what sold me for the $40 price tag. I was like, I have a couple people I know, they were like, I'm going to wait till it goes on sale. And I'm like, I'll give it a shot. It got really good reviews, and it is all puzzle based. So you don't have multiplayer or anything, but you're on an island solving all these little puzzles that they're almost like mazes, except it's a twist on a maze. You've got like these black dots, like you have to go certain paths to get these black dots, or it's almost kind of a racist game in a sense because you got to separate the white from the black. Unfortunately,
In today's
that's the way,
society, we got to go there.
yeah. I mean, it really, until I think about it, I didn't think about that to begin with.
Like,
but
wait, we're gonna throw this out there. Do I have to play the trump card?
Yeah, exactly.
That
And
happens.
and you'll have like the part where you need to go from starting to end, but you have two different lines that you're controlling, and you have to control them to go through certain parts and figure out your path to get both of them to different endpoints. Or you have to use the puzzle. You have to get the sun to shine on the puzzle the right way to see how the path goes. But just not using the sun, there's other lights and stuff like that. Right. So it is a slower style game, but I've come across it where at first I was like, okay, this is good and it's enjoyable, the art style, all that stuff. This is fun. I looked into some like hints and tips and tricks and stuff like that to get through the stuff, and once I looked into it and saw this is the way you got to do it. You got to use your environment to figure out some of these puzzles because the environment will tell you, okay, I'm looking at this. This is how, this is the path I got to go to solve the puzzle. And it brought me into a whole different level. Like, dude, this game it's something else. Well, for the game that it is and what it is. And for $40, I'm like, I would spend $60 on this game because of how good it is.
We're talking about like the indie world though, as far as video games. It's kind of like movies.
Uh-huh.
You can go through 50 or 60 of them and they're going to be terrible. And then every once in a while there's that gem where you're like, if we're talking about a movie, this is Oscar caliber.
Yeah.
Why is this not on the mainstream? And
exactly.
Everybody is watching this. I got to let everybody know about it. You know what I mean? So it's very similar in the game world.
And that's how this game is. I mean, I didn't really know a lot about it beforehand. I heard things and I was like, okay, I'm getting a little more excited. The game came out. I started looking at it. Very interesting. Don't quote me on this, but from what I heard, it was only one guy developed most of it. That's about it. But it's a definitely different style of game than what you would expect to play. And I'm like, it's cool to figure out it actually gets you like. So, yeah, we can hold for a second.
Sorry.
I'll take this time to actually finish up some of this stuff that I usually talk about and get it through now. As I said earlier about the following and hitting the like and all that definitely helps out. You will unfortunately start seeing some ads on these videos, stuff like that, because I do have to find some way to pay for this to keep getting videos and all that. As this is coming out in about a week, little less than a week, I got a computer I'm building. So video quality, sound quality, everything, hands down, is going to be better. So it's coming along. So just hold on. I'll do a lot more stuff, as in live streams. We might do some live podcasts. It's a matter of bringing my computer downstairs to where we podcast at, but do some live podcasts. I'm going to have a lot of live gameplay through Twitch and maybe YouTube, but I'm kind of thinking Twitch only just because it seems a lot better platform to work on. So we'll see. It's in due time, but definitely my YouTube videos that I do are always going to be there, and that's where I might even pull them from the Twitch videos. We'll see. It's still indecision. Also, let me put this out there now. If you have a game out there that you want me to kind of play through, do a Let's Play, let me know. And I try and keep it some of the newer games so I don't go too far. So anything newer out there, let me know. I'll see what I can do about it, because I'm going to have all platforms available to me here soon, from PC to PS4 to Xbox. Yes, I do have a Wii U, but Nintendo is very controlling on their properties, so doing videos on them is not going to happen. Unfortunately, it won't happen. But let me know if there's anything that you want me to play for my Let's Play, or anything that you want us to talk about when we do podcasts like this, because you can always hit me up on Twitter at Nerdology5280, even the Facebook page, which is, of course, Nerdology5280. Leave comments on these videos and all that stuff. I know the night we're recording this, we're losing an hour of sleep, so it's almost the point where call it quits for the night so we can get some sleep. I know last night I didn't drink, or I drank too much, so I didn't sleep much. I was a little lit last night, and I get up early every morning, so I figure why not? Let's do our final thoughts here, and then we'll sign off. So I know you're looking forward to Gears of War, and you're of course playing Rainbow Six like crazy. I mean, is there anything else that is kind of interesting? I know you don't like to go outside the box, but there's so much other stuff out there that just you never know.
And again, it's just like, I'll put it this way: I'm a gamer on a budget.
Yeah.
So I got to stick with what I enjoy and what I know I'm going to like, and I don't have a lot of financial freedom to branch out, especially these days with the way games are and what they cost. So
yeah,
I tend to stick to certain franchises because I trust that they're going to release something I'm going to like. So
yeah.
Honestly, Rainbow Six was something I haven't even played since Nintendo 64. Only reason I got into it was because a lot of my friends were telling me they were looking forward to it, and that's what they were going to get, and that's what they were going to be playing online.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up picking up the game, and the ironic thing was none of them are playing it. I'm the only one who's playing it.
Yeah,
I managed
really?
to talk a couple of other friends into it that had no idea about the franchise before, and they're enjoying it immensely. So I'll say as much as Rainbow Six is probably something I'm going to stick with for a minute because there's still some more DLC to come through the pipes. Yeah. There's more characters to unlock, and the last character that came out on the defensive end named Frost, I like her a lot. She's got an amazing 12-gauge shotgun and bear traps that you set down, and I've been tearing it up with her. I got an amazing kill-death ratio with her. So yeah, as long as that continues to work for me, I'm going to enjoy it. And hopefully the new characters bring, at least one of the characters out of the two brings something to that aspect too. That's going to keep me engaged and want to continue to play it. But so far I haven't been disappointed, so I'm going to continue playing it.
I won't lie. DLC is a dime a dozen for me. I don't buy hardly any DLC as it is. It's just not worth it in my aspect.
The upside with this is that you buy the season pass. It's like $20. You get everything with it. And for me, I didn't pay for the game. I got it for Christmas. Somebody else bought it for me. So buying the DLC, I was like, it's a no-brainer, right?
But DLC is now all of a sudden becoming $40, $50.
It is getting obnoxious, especially what they did with Mortal Kombat pissed me off because I was one of many people who assumed that the initial DLC that you paid like $20, $30 or whatever it was for was going to be a season pass. So that all the new DLC, pretty much the majority of the new DLC that came out, at least all the new characters, was going to come with it. I didn't know it was going to be Combat Pack 1 and Combat Pack 2, and I got to pay another $20 for Combat Pack 2. I'm pissed off about that.
Think of it this way, though. Compared to Street Fighter. Street Fighter, the way they work is they're always doing like definitive edition, super definitive, super definitive, however, and they're adding characters into those, and you have to buy the full game, which is $60, to get those extra characters for a game that's relatively the same. Where here, they're, NetherRealm Studios, they're like, okay, we're going to keep the game the same, and we're going to keep releasing characters, but it's going to be like a yearly thing. Like, okay, you pay $20 and you get all this for the year for these different combat packs. We're not making you buy a whole new game. You're just going to be buying all these new characters and all that stuff. So it's kind of one of those things like, in the fighting franchise, that's kind of how it works, and that's how they'll be doing it with Street Fighter V, in the sense of you're going to have to buy a whole new game to get new characters, new whatever, instead of being able to use your current game and just spend $20 and get whatever. So it's 60 versus 20.
I mean, I get that, but at the same time, I'm looking at it as like, I'm going to pay an extra $20 to play the same game and only get 4 characters.
Look at
so if I'm looking at paying for the game itself, the Combat Pack 1 and the Combat Pack 2, I've already spent $100 on the same game a year after it came out.
Yeah.
I'm not excited about that.
Look at Battlefront. You had to spend $120 to not get shit. I haven't paid. I played it for 5 minutes and that's it since I bought it.
You can pretty
That
much
was
get away
awful.
with that based off the Star Wars franchise
Yeah.
alone, though. I mean,
Well, that was also EA.
You got a big cult following
yeah.
with that, and I understand to an extent there's a cult following with Mortal Kombat as well, but not like Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll never be like Star Wars.
No.
So,
Then on top of it, I'm sorry to extend so long,
fine.
but with Mortal Kombat, I mean, you're also bringing in. You're asking me to pay $20 for characters that, for the most part, aren't actually involved with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, true.
So I mean, there's one character that's a combination of 3 Mortal Kombat characters, and then the other 3 in this new pack are not actual Mortal Kombat characters or ones I really give a fuck about, like Bo Ray Cho.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about Alien. Is there really an appeal for me to spend another $20 on it? Nope. Especially considering I haven't played the game since the last characters came out anyways.
To me it sounds like they're not focusing towards you, they're focusing to bring more people in that's interested, so the people that like the Alien and the Predator and Jason and stuff like that, they're trying to get more of a crowd.
What it really comes down to is that they're able to bring these characters in because of contracts with these certain studios. So Alien, Jason, those are all characters that are involved with similar studios as far as Hollywood goes. So it doesn't cost them a lot of extra money to branch out and bring these characters in.
Plus, it's a different twist. In a sense, they did that with
it's almost silly though. I mean, it's like if you're going to bring me in the Alien character, bring me in Ripley.
What about
if you're going to bring me in Predator, bring me in Schwarzenegger.
Well, look at what they did,
or at least Carl Weathers.
What they did.
Actually, my bad. They did bring in Carl Weathers.
Yeah, what was? It wasn't Mortal Kombat that. Was it Mortal Kombat that did Vader and Yoda? No. Who did Vader? It was. What fight? There was a fighting game. They brought in Vader and Yoda into a fighting game, and they did the similar thing with them. Star Wars characters, and it sold well. It sold a lot because it's bringing in other people that are like, oh, I like these characters. Let me try fighting with them.
I guess.
And now they got. You can buy the game, the Combat, the Ultimate Edition, or whatever for $60.
Honestly,
It's got everything.
It was disappointing to me that happened because this is the first Mortal Kombat game that I really, really liked since Mortal Kombat 3.
Yeah, they do. I mean, and it's unfortunately the way the industry's going. It's downloadable content and more money and all that stuff, and then. The thing that sucks is if you really want to play the game right away and get into it and before everything gets spoiled and all that stuff, you got to buy it right away. But then if you wait a year and a half, you get the Game of the Year edition now.
Right.
That has all the downloadable content and all that stuff.
I just feel like as far as extra DLC outside of season passes, I get the concept behind paying $20-$30 for a season pass and you get the new maps, new characters. But I feel like that's kind of like a subscription that you pay for. You should get everything, almost everything that comes with it. So the only additional content you should have to pay for if you're willing to pay for it would be character skins or weapon skins.
Yeah.
Leave that as downloadable content that you pay extra for. If you pay for a fucking season pass, give me the shit that I pay for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
a
little too obnoxious.
That's why I don't do much DLC. I mean, I just bought my first DLC in for God knows how long, and that was for Fallout 4, for the DLC coming out. But I am such a big Fallout fan, and when their previous game, I think actually that was the last game I did buy DLC for. It was not only a whole new game, it took me to different areas that weren't just in the game, and I was like, okay, I trust the guys at Bethesda. I trust what they're doing. Actually, Elder Scrolls, I bought it for, but it brings you in a different direction. So I'm like, I'm going to spend the money on what they have, and I trust what they do. So most companies, I'm like, I just don't trust you enough for what you're going to do. Are you going to screw me over, and I'm not going to get shit?
So unfortunately, I learned that the hard way with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess for me, it's just because I've been used to playing most of the other multiplayer platforms, and
just wait for...
You definitely get your money's worth for the most part with Call of Duty and the other games because you get new map packs every couple months.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple new weapons.
Uh-huh.
And stuff that really alters your gameplay.
Yeah.
and you don't have to go and spend an extra 40, 50, $60 for it. It's $30 at the most, and for the 12 months that they add DLC, you get it for that $30 package. Instead of like, oh, okay, well, you get this for 6 months, but after 6 months, we're going to charge you another $20.
Yeah.
Like, come on, really?
Yeah, and
Are
I
you
understand.
really going to try to milk
understand.
your franchise that much?
And I completely understand. I mean, they're going in routes that, and that's basically the whole even looking at free-to-play games. You got all these free-to-play games out now where you get the game for free, cool. But to get anywhere and get the good stuff, you have to pay to play it.
Yeah.
And it comes down to that's a lot more expensive than buying just a game anyways nowadays. I mean, you'll spend hundreds of dollars to get all that shit. That's how mobile games got so big. It's free, but if you want to do this or get extra turns or extra lives or this or that, you got to spend $5. Well, you're spending $5 a week. Next thing you know, 3 months down the road, you've got $500 invested in this game.
Yeah,
it's like,
I can see that.
Is free to play really worth it? And that's where the DLC is coming into the fact where it's kind of mimicking that in a sense, because they know if people keep paying it, they're going to keep doing it.
So I'm not going to lie, I got sucked into that, what was that Marvel game that was on Facebook for a while?
Oh, the Marvel Contest Champions?
No,
Facebook.
It was on Facebook, not Android or on
I don't
phones.
I don't know if I played that one.
Because it was more of an RPG style game where you kind of took turns, and you build up different characters, different levels.
Yeah.
Unlock different characters, and you had to spend money to do it. At the end of the day, you had to do it. And after a while, I got myself getting sucked into that fucking game and spending way more money than I should have on it. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This game isn't even that fun, but I got sucked into it, right?
And that's how they do it, and kind of how the industry is. So,
unfortunately.
But I don't know. I think I'm kind of at that point now. I'm getting a little tired. Second podcast of the night,
dude. And I gotta be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, which means for me it's already midnight.
Yeah. So I guess we'll say we'll wrap up here. This is just a little fun podcast. I'll be putting this. I mean, you'll of course be seeing this hopefully Monday nights. Thinking, but we'll see. It depends on time and downloading and all that shit. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe get some more of these style of gaming podcasts because they're kind of fun to do. Just talk about games strictly, where you don't have anything else to worry about and all that. I know coming up less than a week after this, we'll have our next Nerds of the Round Table. That's going to be the March edition for it, which is our monthly podcast where we talk about anything from video games to TV to movies. Comics aren't going to be heavily involved this time because it's not a big enough subject for who's involved with it. So we might talk about if anything's big coming up in the industry, but we won't dive into it deep like we did last time. So keep a lookout for that. You're definitely welcome to come next Saturday. That's going to be another one of those longer podcasts in the sense this is only an hour, a little over an hour. That one's the 3-hour long one.
As always, that'll depend on my work situation.
Exactly. So, but I already explained everything to begin with on here. Follow, like, all that shit. I won't go through it all again. I do appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Appreciate the love and support. It definitely helps out and keeps me motivated to keep doing this and keep on the lookout for all kinds of new stuff. But as always, thanks again. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Peace.